Hey, how you doing? Welcome to Done is Better Than Perfect. In other words, Garden Fork Radio. It's an eclectic DIY show with me, Eric, your host, and my friend Rick Kennerly. Welcome, Rick.
Oh, hello. Good morning, my friend. How are you? It's been a while.
Yeah, life is busy. Modern life.
Yeah, well, you've had a lot of really good interviews. It's been great to hear old folks coming back and some of the new voices you've had. So I'm quite happy to stand aside and hold their coat and listen to their wisdom.
But you have been missed. People ask about you. So I was like, all right.
Somebody during the pandemic stopped my wife, and the pandemic has allowed me to be even more me than I usually am. And so, it's like I can stay in the house, I can read, I can work my projects. I don't have to go anywhere. And somebody says, "Did your husband die?" And so whenever I see him, I'll drive past him, roll down the window and yell, "I'm alive." Oh.
So we were going to talk about, I want to give everyone an electric car update, and also just how my wife lost her phone and how glued we are to our phones, and some thoughts about recovering from that.
Of course, I have some thoughts on that, but let's hear about the EV first. How is the electric car business?
It depends on who you ask. I think me, the EV car driver, things are going really well. And I really like the car. It's a Volkswagen ID.4. It is an all-wheel drive model, which takes a little longer to get delivered. We have the base model. We don't have a lot of the styling package. It does have a trailer hitch, which I really like. And it's all-wheel drive, which I really like. And the biggest thing for me that I have been paying attention to is the charging and my driving style and how it affects the mileage you get out of the battery.
Oh, yeah.
And you can set on there are right in front, behind, through the steering wheel, you have a smaller electronic display that you can pick what displays there. And one of them is instead of miles per gallon, like my Subaru has a thing, it just says what my miles per gallon is. I don't know if they do it over the last 10 minutes or over the last hour, and it will show you your kilowatt, miles per kilowatt. And when you first start out, if you're driving through your subdivision, it might be like 8 or 12 miles per kilowatt hour because you're driving really slow. You're not going up any hills or anything. And I love the sound of the coffee being poured in the background there.
I thought you would.
But as you get on the road, that number drops. And my number is between 3.5 miles to 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which from what I read on the Volkswagen ID forum, is pretty good. But the meter that shows you how many miles you have left in your battery seems to fluctuate quite a bit. And on the ID.4 forum, people complain about that. They call it the guessometer, not a regular meter, but the software is guessing at it. And I guess people are complaining about that in the forum. What a bunch of whiny people on these forums. But anyway.
Every forum
is like that. So my full charge when I first got the car at an 80% charge was 220 miles usually. And that number has dropped, I think, based on my driving style. But I want to dig more about that because I think as you get down to there's only like 20% left in the battery, the number changes again. So I think basically you have 220 miles at an 80% charge, no matter what that guessometer says. But I've never run it to zero, and I don't plan on doing that.
The beauty of this whole system, though, is that's an adaptive system. It's learning as it goes.
Yes.
This is how you drive. This is about what's happening, and even if the guessometer is a little wonky, you can they can literally upgrade the software and make that better in the future. You may not be stuck with that. My Prius Prime, my oldest one, we have two, and my oldest one has had like two or three software updates, and it's added things to the display that weren't there originally. It's taken a few things away that nobody was using, and it seems to be a more steady display over time. But one of the nice things is it's like a video game you can play while you're driving.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think of it. Oh, my foot's a little heavy here. But another great thing about it, of course, my battery, my actual traction battery, only has 30 miles of driving in it before it switches to the hybrid system of electric and gasoline mixed. And I can smoke the wheel wells on this car with the traction battery.
Yes.
I mean, if you punch it, it's people have done this in Teslas, unfortunately, and just lost control of the car because it just spins right out from underneath them. So it's a lot of fun to drive, and it's a learning experience. You are driving essentially a test bed. There have been a lot of complaints. The naysayers are the ones that just kind of drive me crazy. They'll say, well, this technology is not proven. We need to go back to the tried and true. And the future is going to save us. Well, this is the future, and this is what is going to save us. It's just that it's not going to work. When they first started having gasoline-powered cars, and gasoline was not the first choice.
Right.
Batteries were the very first in steam. Now that was a problem, but driving a steam bomb down the road with a pressurized container, but they built garages separate from the house because the early early gasoline cars burst into flames so often. They had so many gas leaks and first one thing another that you didn't want it attached to your house like we have now. And over time, we've learned to control, the hazards of gasoline. We will learn to control the hazards of electric vehicles. They're complaining now a lot about Hurricane Ian down in Florida. And for our Florida listeners, we're still thinking about you down there, South Carolina, Georgia. But they had a lot of electric vehicles that flooded out. And when they flooded out, now they're shorting out. And they're causing massive fires. But that's the price of progress. We will eventually learn how to contain and fix all these problems as we go forward. And I'm thrilled to be, in 100 million years, some alien civilization's going to dig us up.
Yeah.
And they're going to just marvel that, we're sitting here next to this enormous power generating source of energy that's free, and we couldn't figure out how to use it.
Yeah.
That's a little depressing to me. So I am glad to know that we are making some progress in this way, and I'm all for it.
Me too.
Preachy thing ended.
It's interesting though when I talk to my friends and stuff. Like I have a friend who is a construction business. He builds foundations and he has massive equipment, and he has this giant truck. And
right,
he was next to my electric car. I said, hey, that's your future. He goes, oh no, it isn't. And I'm like, well, yeah, it is. But he knows it's in the future because. But people, their interest is, they're like, oh, wow, what's about that? But there's a lot of these preconceived notions. And I'm like, that's not entirely true. I mean, it's much like what's going on in politics where people spin stuff and it goes out of control. The same thing as with the electric car. But people will talk to me about it and they're genuinely interested. The biggest thing that hangs people up is the range. And my short answer to that is, and this is from thanks to Nicole, is your average commute is 40 miles a day. And you're going to plug your electric car in every night in your garage or your driveway. So it's a non-issue, you know.
Sure. That's the reason, or if you're a house that has two cars, you know, if I could have bought a pure electric car when we needed one urgently, when I bought that second Prius Prime, I would have bought one because even 100 miles range is more than enough for running around town and getting to the places I need to go, and she who must be obeyed needs to get to in a day. And so we plug them in at night, and then we have the first Prius Prime. We call it the primitive Prius Prime now. To for longer trips, you know, you get the initial 30 mile battery range, and then it kicks into hybrid mode, and the engine comes on. But then for longer trips, you know, like when I was running down to Florida all the time, you know, we'd use that. And so if you have two vehicles, there's no reason one can't be an electric in most cases. Not every case, but in most cases.
The other thing I've been experiencing is, you know, if we go up into the woods, we come home late Sunday night or late Monday night, depending on the camera operator's work schedule. And almost every time I've been able to drop the car into the charging station, which is about 3 blocks from our house. It's a curbside charging station. There are 2 spots there to charge cars. And it's interesting, like I pulled up there the other night, and there's a big pickup truck. I don't know why these guys buy pickup trucks and try to park them in Brooklyn. And there were 2 guys kind of jockeying this thing in, and I pulled up and I just said, hey, this is an electric car. I need to charge it right here. And by the way, if you park here, it's a $95 ticket. And they were like, oh, okay. Oh, we'll get out of the way. And they pulled out. And then there are people that will, there are a lot of people that kind of live in their cars in Brooklyn because they're in an apartment with their whole family, and their car is their private space. So they'll idle. They'll just sit in the charging station, and they'll move out of the way as well. But what I've experienced lately, and it's 2 different people who own Teslas, and they park in one of the charging spots, and they're not plugged in. So they're using it as their personal parking space. And the police have enough on their hands, especially overnight. They have to deal with, you know, there's spousal abuse, there's violence against people, you know, for me to call and go, oh, excuse me, someone is blocking my charging station, you know, and trying to explain to them, because they drive by, they see a Tesla and a charging station. They're like, oh, it's a Tesla, it belongs there. What they don't know,
right?
Because they don't know about they know it has to be plugged in, but they just assume it's plugged in on the curbside and they can't see the plug. On the charging station,
right,
if the charger is available, in other words, not plugged in, the LEDs on the thing are white. It's about a 5-inch wide LED strip. If it's charging, it's blinking green, or it's plugged in, it's blinking green. Mm-hmm. So that's the problem now for me, is within the EV community, there are jerks, you know.
They're always here. You know, one of the things I've noticed, though, just recently, do you have Wawa's there, a convenience store?
No.
It's a regional thing.
I know where
here.
It is.
It's like a 7-Eleven.
They're doing, like Philadelphia. Yeah. That's the farthest north I think they go. So, oh, there's a phone ringing.
And you have a telephone
I'm
call.
just going to turn it off.
But our Wawa's here all installed, I think, 8 stations of 2 cars each for charging. And at lunch, it is absolutely amazing to go by and see all the people backed into their charging slots, almost all of them Teslas. We have an amazing number of Teslas here. And charging their cars and stuff at the Wawa's while they go in and get a hot dog or something.
I'm working on a video about what it's like to own an electric car in New York, and there's a shopping mall. If you know the Barclays Center is. It's the big arena in Brooklyn. It's not far from my house, and there's a shopping mall next to it. And they have parking in the basement. There's 2 levels of parking, and Tesla has superchargers down there. So you can pay for parking, which is fairly affordable there, actually. And then you can plug into a supercharger, which is a DC charge rather than AC coming out of your house current. And so it's much faster and at a higher amperage. It's a bigger garden hose. It's a fire hose compared to a garden hose as far as the amount of energy being put into your battery. So you can charge for a half an hour and I don't know about fully charge your battery, but at least top it up very quickly.
Right.
That's the future.
Well, and you know, that's the future.
Hey, real quick, if you would like to help support the show, one way is to use the Amazon link for Garden Fork. I said that backwards. The Garden Fork Amazon link. It's in the show notes here. It's amazon.com/shop/gardenfork. If you use that link, it'll take you to our shopping page. We can see the cool tools I use, cookbooks. I have several lists there of stuff. But also, by visiting that page, then doing all your shopping, we get a finder's fee for whatever you shop for that day. That's really helpful. Amazon.com/shop/gardenfork. Thank you.
Anyway, enough about electric cars because you and I can go on forever. On the telephone, was that the camera operator telling you she had lost her phone?
No, we still have a landline, and actually it comes in handy because, like, my mom calls that number. You know, it's actually it's a VoIP line. It's a voice over IP line. I got it from Vonage. It's very affordable.
Yeah.
And it's plugged into our router, and then you can plug a regular cordless phone into it. And so it just comes in handy because we've had that phone number for 25 years. So it's $25 a month, I think, and so we just keep it. But anyway.
Well, I was trying to give you an opening into the next topic.
Oh, well, so the camera operator lost her work phone yesterday. And she lost it walking the dogs. And she works a long day, and she's sitting in front of a computer talking or working. And so she likes to walk during her lunch hour with the pups, if she's working from home. And it's a big phone, and it's like, she's like, I don't know what happened. It fell out of her pocket or whatever. So we retraced her steps, what block she was walking on, and we did it twice. Couldn't find it. I turned on the Find My iPhone on my phone to find her phone, and it didn't show up anywhere. I tried to call it. It didn't. It went right to voicemail. If you texted, at least on an iPhone, it'll tell you whether it's delivered or not, and the message wasn't delivered. So we're thinking someone found it and turned it off immediately. Or
right, it's gone,
fall out of her pocket
gone.
And break. I don't know if that, because it had a heavy-duty case around it. So, but it reminded me how tied a lot of people are to their phones, because she uses that for her 2-factor authentication to log into the company where she works, their Zoom system and their email system and all that. And to get into the office, she has to use that, an app on that to be able to get past the security at the front desk of the office building they work in. So I had a couple thoughts about this. Do you have some thoughts first?
Well, I have lots of thoughts about it, but it sounds like you have. Please go ahead.
Well, my first suggestion for everyone.
I'll chime in as we go.
I don't know what's called the startup screen, the screen that you get before you punch in your access code to open up the phone. I don't know what that's called. But basically, if you just punch one of the buttons on the phone, this screen comes up showing the time, and you can put a picture of your dog on there, whatever. Take a screen grab of that. I know how to do it on an iPhone. I don't know on an Android phone. There's got to be a way. And then send that, save that to your photos, and then you can use a photo editing program on your phone or a laptop or an iPad, whatever. But you can put in a photo you like, but also add some text that has what's called your ICE numbers, which is in case of emergency numbers. Like if
Right.
you are knocked unconscious and you're in the hospital and they're like, oh, we have their phone, we can't unlock it, we don't know how to call any of this guy's friends. But if they just touch the button, that the opening screen lights up, and you can have several phone numbers burned into the photo that they could call. Oh, he's got some phone numbers here. We can call these. And you can also put your other contact info. And like on my opening screen is my landline and my email address. And I didn't put it in there, but you could put reward if found, you know. And
Right.
on the camera
Right.
operator's phone, I had meant to do this because it was a newer phone and I neglected. And so whoever found it, if they wanted to plug it in and charge it up, and that comes up, they're like, "Oh, I'll get a reward if I return the phone." That didn't happen.
Right.
So,
Do you know what else I put on there? I put on there dogs alone at home,
oh,
so that if I'm killed in a car crash or whatever, and somebody can come and rescue the dogs.
oh, that's brilliant.
And also of course, we can only talk about the iPhones because that's what we have. But have you set up emergency contacts and emergency medical data in your iPhone?
I don't know if I turned on the medical data, but I turned on the emergency contacts.
Yeah, because that way the EMS people and whatnot can open it up, see who your contacts are, see what your medical and drug histories are, and that kind of thing, to better help you. And in that list as well, I put dogs alone at home, so that if she who must be obeyed has been traveling a lot lately with the loosening of restrictions, going to visit sisters and whatnot, and so I'm here by myself, and if something happens, I don't want my dogs to starve to death.
We should clarify that there's an emergency. There's a button, series of buttons you can press on the iPhone, and it'll open up another screen that just shows emergency contacts and just shows your emergency medical data. It's not access to your whole phone.
Right. And then but you have to turn it on specifically.
Yes, in the
So,
settings you have to
that's
turn that
one
on.
thing to do. Yeah. The other thing, I just anticipate we will lose these phones. And by being pessimistic like that, I have tried to ensure we've done everything we can to protect ourselves. One, have a passcode and have a nice long passcode and a very short time. Both our phones are set to 30 seconds. And so if the screen's not touched, they lock.
Aha.
Just in case somebody picks it up while we're not looking, they can't get into the phone. But I've also locked my SIM in the cellular, under settings, under cellular. There's SIM lock.
Oh.
And you have to know the SIM code to open it, which in almost every case is 1234, and if it's not that, it's 0000. They're very creative.
Yes.
These people. And then I change the SIM passcode and lock it, so that if my phone is stolen or if I lose it, and they pop the SIM out and they pop it into another phone, they can't unlock that SIM and use it to run up charges.
Huh. Interesting.
And then, so it's one of those things, you have to think about it beforehand. Setting up Find My Phone and sharing your location with another person, which is something you can do in the Find My Phone part of the app, so that it's like, well, but then somebody always knows where I am. But if you lose your phone, or if something happens to you, at least know the last place the phone reported in, and so it's nice to turn some of those features on if you're comfortable with it.
Wow. That was worth a phone call right there.
I'm afraid I'm a catastrophist. I always look at shit and go, well, what could go wrong here? And the other thing is, I have stopped using SMS notifications for two-factor authentication, and I've switched to the TOTP app. There are many of them. It's Google Authenticator. They're all doing the same thing, but you can set up on different devices, and so you don't lose your codes that way. If you have an iPad, you can install the TOTP and link them and pass the codes back and forth to each other. So if you lose your phone, then that TOTP code that you look up, and it's a timed,
Right.
timed one-time password, I think is what it's called, TOTP. And it has 30 seconds, and then the code changes, and you have to enter a new code. That way, if I lose the phone, it's still on my iPad, and I don't lose access to all those things.
So I actually use this for Facebook. I don't want to give Facebook my cell phone number. They probably already have it because my friends have uploaded their entire contact address book to Facebook.
Yes.
But it's just a thing. So but I wanted two-factor authentication for Facebook and a couple other things that I have to log into. So they will allow you to use the Google Authenticator app and a couple others, but I use the Google Authenticator app. So I go to Facebook, I type in my name and my password, and then the next screen asks me for my two-factor authentication code. So I go to the Google Authenticator, which is on my phone and my iPad, and you just turn it on, and it lists all the accounts that you have paired with the Google Authenticator, because Google knows who I am, and I'm fine with that.
Right.
And then you just type that code
I'm not.
to the website. I know you're not, but I'm just trying to. So the point is,
Yeah.
like Rick's point, if you lose your phone, like the camera operator lost her phone, then you could just fire up your iPad and still get those authenticator codes to log into your Gmail or your Facebook or your company account, whatever. So you don't have to be tied to the phone and what's called SMS, which is the generic text messaging. Apple has a messaging system that's encrypted, and SMS is not encrypted. So that's just something to think about.
Right. Yeah, and the big thing nowadays is in a lot of the scams, if somebody's got your account name and password already, because they're out there everywhere. My login information for millions of sites seems to be floating around in the Ethernet now. But then people will call you or text you and say, "I just sent you an SMS message with a code on it. We need to talk about your account. You need to read that number back to me." And what they've done is logged into your account. It's sent an SMS authentication number to your phone. When you read it back to those people, they're logging into your account because they just take that number and put it in the little slot. So SMS is not real secure when somebody's really after your accounts. And so I've gone to the TOTP. I'm watching now for the authenticator keys, YubiKey, and that type of thing, and seeing how that's developing. There is a new alliance called the FIDO Alliance, FIDO, and Google, Apple, Amazon, everybody is involved in coming up with a authentication system that doesn't require TOTP or SMS. That is kind of universal.
Wow.
And it is a trustless system. You don't have to trust anybody. It's difficult to explain without a lot of charts and stuff. But essentially, it's like encrypted messages where you have a public key and a private key, and everyone can get your public key, but only you have access to your private key, your devices. There's an FA-18 flying over right now.
Oh, I thought they're coming for you.
Yeah. And they're working on where it will just authenticate from something and it will work better than passwords or TOTP or SMS. And so it's coming, and they're doing a really bang up job, and I don't even pretend to understand it all. It's very technical.
Yeah, sounds like it.
But it's going to be it's going to make this space a lot more safe.
Oh, I like that. That's hope for us. Thank you, Rick.
Hope.
Nicole.
Hope. I was going to say hope is. I heard this somewhere recently. Hope is just waiting for somebody else to do it. I kind of like that.
All right. Well, I hope Nicole will be on the show soon because she went to Berlin. I got this picture from Berlin, and I was like, wow. Oh, she could have gone to the Rothschild Museum.
Ah, wow.
We're going to talk about my links to royalty a little bit more in the after show if y'all are interested. If you want to support...
Oh, Your Majesty,
yeah.
I'm
Let's
humbled.
get this straight, man.
I'm humbled.
A cup of coffee a month. You get behind-the-scenes photos through Patreon. And the after show, sometimes I just pull out the phone and start talking into it to post in a bonus episode for patrons. And that all can be downloaded automatically to your podcast player of choice. I don't even know if Rick listens to the after show. He's a patron.
I do listen to the after show. I'm a patron. I've got the special patron link, so it goes directly to my podcast player, which is Overcast in this case for me. And I get both the regular show and the after show as part of being a patron.
Yay. You were one of the first ones, too. I posted recently a picture of this electrical wire mess that I ran across in my home. And I was like, welcome to my world.
What amazes me, how long have you lived in that house?
20
now?
years.
Yeah. And you're still uncovering, just amazing messes that, the house was built, Civil War period?
No, it looks like it, but it was built in 1949.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
well,
it's a colonial, but it's made to look old.
But I mean, just the amazing things that mostly owners have done to work around building codes or doing the best they can with the very limited knowledge they seem to have.
Yeah, it's interesting. But anyway, suffice to say that is being repaired with professional help. So
good. There's some things, the important thing about DIY is knowing when you're in over your head.
Yeah, we're actually going to talk about that in the after show because I have to clean my basement for the insulators to come through, and it's causing some anxiety in my life. So, but you can hear Art talk about his anxiety in the after show. What fun!
All right. Well, listen, I got to go. I'll stick around for the after show, but I've got things I got to do today.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much. If you have a thought you'd like to interject some comments, it's radio@gardenfork.tv. Go out and do cool stuff and make it a great day. Thank you so much. Garden Fork Radio is produced by Garden Fork Media, LLC in Brooklyn, New York. Our producer is Sean O'Neill. If you need an amazing podcast producer, visit Sean's site, SeanInBrooklyn.com. That's Sean, SEAN, in Brooklyn.com. Our executive producer is Jimmy Goose. For more information about Jimmy and the custom hollow books he makes, visit hollowbooks.com. The music in the show is licensed from audioblocks.com and uniquetracks.com.